Welcome back to Day-to-Day Chess Games Analysis. This is Sabina reporting on the tiebreakers of the round 4 of the World Cup in Baku. Compared to other tiebreaker days, today didn't seem to be as contested, most likely because of the drastic decrease of the players, but in the same time, fatigue and stress have been accumulated by the players, so we are seeing many more mistakes early on in the games. Before we're going to talk about the persons who have qualified to the finals, let us go through the matches and see what happened. The first match that I'd like to go over is the one between Giri and Wojtaszek. In their first game, Giri was white and Wojtaszek black, and they got this position where it is quite clear that although white has a pawn up, this c5 pawn is about to be lost and c3 pawn is weak. In the same time, black has the d5 pawn weak as well. Well, it's isolated. So we are thinking that, in general, when you see this position, you would be thinking that, okay, these two pawns, these three actually, are going to be traded off, and eventually there will be some drawish endgame happening. But, you know, in theory is very different than in practice. So let's see what happened here. White just started improving the position of his pieces. It's quite clear that he's going to lose some of these pawns. So black decided to capture this c5 pawn, f3, bishop g6. Now white is going to try to improve the position of his knight even more and bring it to d6 to control the c8 and e8 square so that black doesn't have such an easy task to attack c3. Knight b5. And here I did not like at all rook e8. I thought queen a5 was a better choice for Wojtaszek, because maybe he wants to put the rook on the d8 and this one on c8. It's white to put it on e8 when we know that white wants to play f4 anyways. So this seemed to be like a better idea for him to play, in my opinion. But anyways, he went for rook e8 and here f4, and here I think he made a big mistake. Bishop e4. He does not have a clear plan. I mean, white wants to play knight d6, right? And okay, maybe he wants to play f5. But if he doesn't really want to play f5, there's no need to play bishop e4. So, for example, knight e4 is the move that I'm suggesting. And I want to show to you why f5 is not possible, because this is the threat, right? So if we stop the threat, then this position should be really good for black, because I'm stopping you from coming to d6. My next move can be a6, make you go back, and then, okay, I can move my bishop, I can play h6 to make sure it's ensured, you know. This bishop is really good here, protecting the king. Now, why f5 is not good? Because we have this good move, queen b6 check. Now you have to play king h1, because if you play queen d4, take a moment to see what's happening. Knight takes c3, so I'm using this pin and the fact that this knight was overcharged, defending both the queen and the pawn, to just win this c3 pawn. And this position is really good for black. That is the reason why after king h1, we can just play bishop takes f5, rook takes f5, and take a moment to see the next move here. Rook takes e5. Now, of course, you cannot take rook takes e5 because knight f2 check queen. So queen f1, rook takes f5, queen takes f5, and now with black I have perpetual. What more can I want from this? I have black. Okay, I have black. I'm playing against the top player in the world. Let me just make draw with black, and then I'll see what I can do with white. Okay, bishop e4 definitely was a bad choice by Wojtaszek here, because now white, all he had to do is just put his knight in d6 and put it with tempo. Now get rid of his weakness just by playing c4. You are more or less forced to take, because otherwise I take and I'll just have a pawn up that now it's not weak anymore. Now I'm improving the position of my bishop, putting some pressure on f7. And simply queen c2, rook d1. What can be simpler than just improving the position of your pieces? And now I'm threatening f5, and basically Giri attracts Wojtaszek to play g6, and now after f5, white is simply just winning. Knight d4, queen d2, coming for the mate in g7, and after knight takes f5, just rook takes, knight takes, and now there's no way to stop the loss of the rook or mate. So this was the first game that was won by Giri. And the next game, actually, Wojtaszek had a big chance to to convert the game and have to go to play another match afterwards. But they got this position, so Giri had a very strange opening choice. Make sure you check it out if you want to find out more about the opening choice. But basically, they got into this position, and Wojciech has a pawn up, and it's a free pawn. It's about to start. He started pushing. He played knight c7, of course, first freeing the pawn. Now pushing it is good to keep it on the white square to be well protected and such, and just making sure he can go on black as well, so that black doesn't just block it and then he cannot do anything anymore. Now he castled along very good, rook d8, and here he had to find this idea, in my opinion, bishop e2 f3. He had to keep his bishop quite mobile on this diagonal, defending the pawn, then doubling on the d file and start pushing the pawn. But instead of that, he played bishop c4, which I didn't find as a very good move, because the bishop now basically took the role of a pawn defending, and king f8. Now again, I thought maybe rook d2 was more natural to double on the file, since you want to push that pawn. Instead he played rook e1, rook d2. Okay, and here, I mean, your knight is being attacked. Why not play d6? You have to protect your knight. You cannot let it go. Instead of that, he played g4, which is a mistake, because after rook takes, maybe he thought d6 was possible. But what did he miss? Take a moment to see it. Rook takes c4 check, and after pawn takes, just knight c6, and I have two pieces for the rook, a rook and one pawn. But okay, this pawn is blocked, and although you have the rooks, because you cannot activate your rooks, there's nothing to do for white. So from here on, Giri just improved the position of his king and created some opening for his rook on that file, and eventually this was the final moments of their game. After rook c3, the final move of the game was rook f1, and Giri is just winning the f4 pawn. So definitely a big win for him, 2-0, and he's going through the next round. Let us go to the next match that was played between Yakovenko and Elianov. Here in their first game, they reached this position, and it seemed that the game didn't really go in any player's favor. Many pieces got traded off here. So in this position, white played e4, e5, just very natural, trying to get some space. And now knight d6, you're kind of forced to give away that bishop. So one of them. So he gave the black color bishop, and now although Yakovenko had the bishop pair, he can't really do much. The position is close, so he can't really do much to improve here, and eventually this game ended in a draw. The second game that they played, Elianov started dominating from this position. So he already has more space, as you can see here on the king side, and although these pawns are doubled, white is going to play e4 and get rid of his double pawns. So he first played rook to d1, not allowing black to trade the pawns because this knight in d7 is hanging. So rook d8, and now he took, and e4. You realize he put this f rook to d1. Had he put the other one, he would not be able now to play f4 because the rook in f1 would be hanging. So and after this, she just has a really great position. Queen d6, very good move. He didn't hurry to capture the pawn back because this pawn is going to be lost anytime. He just made sure he had the d file, and now after rook takes d6, knight c5, knight takes e4, trades, and he remained with this d6 pawn that helped him win the game. So definitely a big win here for Elianov. He's going through the next round with this win. I'm not gonna go until the end. If you want to find out his nice technique and how he won this game, make sure you check out the entire game. Another match that I thought it was going to be hard-fought match finished much faster than I expected. For example, the match is between Andreikin and Karyakin. In this game, which was the first one played by them, Karyakin had white, and it's Andreikin's turn. And here he played rook g4, which I didn't think was a very good move because he's just giving away a pawn. So if we evaluate the position, he has 2 pawns for the piece, and white has a bad king. So definitely you can think of some attacks, but if it doesn't work, don't push it. I think queen c1 or queen e7 had to be played. Either, defensive, stay in the defensive, or try to be active with queen c1. But after rook g4, the reason this was bad is because you just give away the pawn. You have to play rook f8, and now Karyakin could have just played rook f2, bishop d4, e3, and after that this a pawn is just going to queen, and you have nothing with your pieces to create any mating threats here. But instead of that, actually Karyakin made a mistake and gave Andreikin some chances to improve, to have some attacking ideas. Unfortunately, Andreikin didn't take them, and they reached this position, and here he played rook 8 to c3. Please find the way white won here. Queen h8 check, knight f7, and he won the queen. And maybe about 10 moves later, Andreikin resigned this. So definitely a good game by Karyakin. Their second game was very strange. In my opinion, Andreikin probably was devastated by his loss, and he tried desperately to attack Karyakin. But in my opinion, all he succeeded to do was break most of the positional principles of chess. Like, for example, this position. He stayed with the bishop in g3, totally very badly placed. You need to get rid of this bishop before you get into this position. And after knight f5, he found this idea. Of course, it's forced to play bishop f2, but then to play g4. However, after bishop e7, he has not played g4. Very strange. He went for knight g4, which is not something that you do in this type of positions. You don't want to trade the knight. Wait for black to lose time to play knight d7, f6, to trade your knight. Otherwise, keep it here. That's why it's, you put it there to have a great position. And, once the pieces got traded off the board, this position is just, he gave away even his white color bishop. This position is just really great for black. And although at the end Karyakin was totally won, he offered a draw, and he was through the next round. The last match that was going on was between Wei and Ding Liren, probably the most watched match. Their first 2 games of the rapid ended up quite normally, 2 draws. Then the third one, that was a more rapid game, again ended in a draw. And then, crazily enough, their fourth game started like a good position for white, and this was the position. I thought Ding Liren was going to win this because, his pieces are really well placed. This bishop is always a problem for black in this d4, d5 stuff. And it seems that it turned out as a nightmare for Ding Liren. For example, in this position, after taking in g7, he could have just played queen b2 check, knight f6, and now b4, because black cannot capture the knight. Can you find the reason why? Bishop takes e4, and after pawn takes, just knight c3, and the queen is lost. So if he goes back to d8, then just knight c3, and white has a great position. Instead of that, he went knight c3, bishop b7, queen b2, and now again he could have played f3 and just open up the position, use the fact that the knight was dead there. Instead of that, he played rook d1, and okay, the game went on. There were draws happening towards the end, but unfortunately for him, he didn't take any of them, and in this position he played queen e7, after which he's totally lost, because he's unable to create any fortress. I really hope you enjoyed these games, this report. Make sure you stay tuned for more. Tomorrow, Svidler Vei, Nakamura Elyanov, Mamedyanov Karyakin, and Vachier Giri. Stay tuned.